Welcome to Stories Junction. Let's begin today's story. The rhythmic thud of waves against the yacht's hull pulsed through the humid Miami night, drowned out by the clinking of glasses and bursts of laughter. On the main deck, fairy lights twinkled like stars, casting a golden glow over the crowd. Music throbbed, a sultry mix of jazz and electronica, as guests in tailored suits and glittering dresses swayed and mingled. At the heart of it all stood Elise Navarro, the radiant heiress of the Navarro fashion empire, her laughter bright, her presence magnetic. Friends, family, and Miami's elite raised flutes of champagne to her, oblivious to the secret she carried. Except for one man, her husband, Victor Navarro. Below deck, in a dimly lit cabin Elise used for quick makeup fixes, Victor stood alone. A tumbler of whiskey sat untouched in his hand, its amber surface catching the faint light. His gaze was locked on a tablet, its screen a harsh beacon in the shadows. One email had shattered everything. 7 years of marriage, a decade of devotion, every ounce of faith he'd placed in her. The email was anonymous. No subject, no sender, just an attachment. He'd opened it expecting a work memo. Instead, he found photos, grainy but undeniable. Elise, in a sapphire dress, pressed against a stranger's chest. Not one moment, not one lapse. Multiple scenes, different nights, different cities. Her smile, alive with reckless abandon, bore no resemblance to the woman who murmured, "I love you," over morning coffee. The final line of the email twisted like a blade. "She's never going to stop. You should know." Victor didn't flinch or shout. He sank into a chair, whiskey still in hand, and stared until the laughter above felt like a distant echo. Hours earlier, Elise had leaned close, her perfume lingering, and whispered, "Back in a few. Don't wander off." He hadn't wandered. Not then. But now, something in him was drifting far from her. Victor, a real estate magnate who thrived on calculated risks, had always trusted structure. Love, he'd thought, was a steady asset. Invest in it, and it grows. But as he scrolled through more images, read fragments of texts, saw dates that overlapped with their anniversary trip to the Keys, a fracture formed. Not despair, but clarity. Upstairs, Elise sparkled as her brother toasted her, calling her the soul of their family. She posed for photos, hugged Ted with her father, tossed playful winks to distant cousins. Below, the man she'd vowed to cherish sifted through the ruins of their life, wondering how long he'd been a shadow in her story. From his jacket, he pulled a slim leather journal. No poetry, no confessions, just names. Javier Ruiz, her work friend from the atelier, the one she called practically family. Mateo Vega, the photographer she claimed was too pretentious to like. Sebastian Cole, a childhood friend who always appeared when Victor was away on business. 3 names, countless images, a tapestry of deception. Victor stood, smoothed his tie, and slipped the journal back into his pocket. He wouldn't confront her tonight. No, he wanted her to taste the weight of silence, the slow creep of uncertainty that would morph into fear. He climbed the stairs to the deck, the music swelling as he merged with the crowd. Elise spotted him, her smile instant, polished, dazzling. "There you are," she said, gliding over, her hand grazing his arm. "You okay?" "You vanished." Her lips brushed his jaw, warm and familiar. "Just needed a moment," he replied, his voice steady. A lie. But lies were their currency now, weren't they? "Dance with me," she urged, her eyes playful. He did, letting her spin under the lights, her joy a performance that masked the wreckage below. He moved with her, a man already plotting his exit. The next morning, Elise woke to an empty bed. Nothing alarming. Victor often jogged at dawn to clear his mind. But his closet was noticeably bare. His phone, his wallet, his favorite watch gone. The bottle of cologne she'd gifted him last Christmas sat unopened, abandoned. Her calls went to voicemail. Her text, "Hey, everything okay? Where are you?" hung unanswered. In the guest room, his suitcase was missing. A chill settled in her chest. She checked his phone's location. Disabled. Her pulse quickened. Downstairs, her mother was flipping crepes, humming a salsa tune. Elise smiled, nodded through small talk, but her mind raced. By afternoon, an email hit her work inbox. Anonymous, with a subject line that stopped her cold. A reminder of who you've been. Attached were screenshots, her flirty texts with Mateo, photos of her laughing with Javier in a dimly lit bar. She slammed her laptop shut, her breath shallow, her eyes darting around her office. He knew. Victor knew everything. That night, she perched on their bed, phone in hand, dialing him again. The endless ring gave way to his voicemail, calm and professional. "Victor, please," she whispered. "Let's talk. I'm sorry. I need to explain." She didn't know where he was, but Victor did. He was in a rented beach house along the Gulf Coast, the tide rolling in, a mug of black coffee cooling on the porch rail. He listened to her message, his expression blank. He wouldn't reply. Not yet. This wasn't the end. It was the opening move in a game Elise didn't yet know she was playing. What had Victor discovered that cut so deep? And what was his next step? The answers lie in the shadows of Elise's unraveling world, where silence speaks louder than screams. The Gulf Coast air was thick with salt and morning mist as Victor laced up his running shoes outside the beach house. Before Elise's betrayal, his mornings had been a ritual. 6 a.m. coffee, a 6-mile run through Miami's neon-lit streets, then an hour scanning property markets. Elise would stir later, her hair a tangled crown, her smile sleepy as she shuffled into the kitchen in one of his button-downs. He'd loved that rhythm, their contrast, his precision against her wildness. He used to call her his tropical storm. She'd laugh, leaning into the nickname. Now, those memories felt like scenes from someone else's life. He hadn't run since the night on the yacht, but today he did. 7 miles along the coastal trail, the sand soft underfoot, the horizon endless. Each stride hammered her name into the earth. Elise. Elise, who'd wept when he proposed on a cliffside in Tulum. Elise, who'd called him her anchor. Elise, who'd vowed forever in a cathedral pact with their families. Yet all along, she'd been weaving a parallel life. It wasn't just the affairs. It was the audacity of her duplicity. She hadn't stumbled. She'd chosen to live as someone else. Back at the beach house, Victor opened his laptop. The burner email he'd set up had 14 new messages. Half were from Elise. Please, apologies, promises to change. I know I messed up. Please, let's talk. I'll do anything. The others were from her circle. Her cousin, confused. Her assistant, defensive. Her brother, curtly asking what was going on. One stood out, though. Javier Ruiz, the family colleague. Subject: we need to clear this up. Victor clicked. Man, I'm sorry. I didn't know you two were still solid. Elise told me you were done, that you were distant, controlling. She said you checked out. I cut it off when I realized she was lying. She told people you got aggressive, too. I didn't buy it, but others might. Heads up. She's spinning stories. I'm out of this mess, but you should know. Victor's jaw tightened. Not only had she betrayed him, she was rewriting him as the villain. A weaker man might have fired back, exposed her publicly, let rage take the wheel. Victor didn't. He was playing a longer game. He archived the email, noting Javier's words. Evidence, not emotion, would shape his moves. In Miami, Elise's world was fraying at the edges. She still glided into Navarro Atelier, her family's fashion house, with a practiced smile, posting curated shots of sketchbooks and iced match on Instagram. She wore her married name like a shield, but her confidence was cracking. Whispers followed her. Friends who once flooded her DMs with emojis now replied with one-word texts. Her assistant's glances lingered too long, wary, searching. The anonymous emails kept coming. More screenshots, more photos, each one a shard of her secret life. The latest showed her with Mateo Vega at a rooftop bar, her hand on his arm, her laugh frozen in time. Subject: how many masks do you wear? She deleted it, heart pounding, but the damage was spreading. At a brunch with her closest friend, Lena, the air turned heavy. Lena set down her mimosa and fixed Elise with a stare. Victor reached out, she said. Elise's stomach lurched. Reached out about what? She asked, forcing a laugh. Lena's voice was low. About you and Mateo. And Javier. And Sebastian. He has proof, Elise. Texts, pictures. You told me Victor was the problem, that he was cold. But you lied. To me, to everyone. Elise's smile faltered. I didn't say he was abusive or anything. Lena cut her off. You implied it. You let me think he was distant, that you were trapped. Then I saw the messages. You played us all. Lena grabbed her bag. And Sebastian? Really? You didn't just hurt Victor. You dragged me into your lies. She left, her heels clicking on the tile. Elise sat, her avocado toast untouched, her phone silent. The room felt smaller, the chatter around her sharper. Back home, she rifled through their closet, pulling on one of Victor's old sweatshirts. Its faint cedar scent hit her like a wave. She sank to the floor, knees to chest, surrounded by the ghosts of their life. Victor hadn't just left. He'd erased himself so completely that every corner of their penthouse felt hollow. She called him again. Voicemail. Victor, I know you're hurting. I'm hurting too. Please, just talk to me. No response. Meanwhile, Victor was sowing subtle chaos. A discreet message to one of Elise's top clients. Might want to pause collaborations. Some personal issues could get messy. A tip to the Atelier's PR team. Rumors about Elise Navarro could impact the brand. He wasn't aiming to ruin her. Not yet. He wanted her to feel the ground shift beneath her, to question every glance, every silence. He started venturing out, visiting quiet cafes in nearby towns, striking up conversations. At a bookstore in Naples, he met Dr. Clara Mendez, a psychologist-turned-writer with a sharp mind and a popular blog. Over coffee, she overheard him mention rebuilding after a lie to the barista. They talked for hours. You know what stings most? Victor said, staring at the foam on his latte. It's not the betrayal. It's that she wanted to be someone else with them. I was just scenery. Clara nodded, her eyes steady. You don't heal by confronting her. You heal by becoming someone she can't touch. Someone she'll never know again. The words landed like a key turning in a lock. Elise wanted him broken, pleading, or furious. He'd give her none of that. He'd give her absence and triumph. Victor threw himself into a side project he'd shelved for years. A real estate tech platform, a tool to streamline property investments. He coded late into the night, pitched to old contacts by day, quietly amassing support. He wasn't hiding anymore. He was building. But the real plan, the one that would unravel Elise's world, was still taking shape. It would start with a single, carefully timed move, one that would force her to face the mirror she'd been avoiding. What is Victor planning? And how will Elise's carefully curated life continue to crack? The tide is turning, and the truth is closing in. The Gulf Coast sky was bruised with clouds as Victor stood on the beach house porch, the tang of salt air sharp in his lungs. 3 weeks had passed since he'd walked away from Elise, and the world felt both smaller and vaster. His mornings, once anchored by routine, now carried a different rhythm. He still brewed black coffee, still ran, but the runs were longer, the coffee stronger. Each day, he carved out a little more of himself from the wreckage of their life. The man who'd once believed in Elise's chaos as his counterpoint was gone. In his place was someone sharper, quieter, more deliberate. Inside, his laptop hummed. The burner email inbox had ballooned, 27 new messages. Elise's pleas had shifted from desperate to frantic. Victor, I'm losing my mind. Please, just one conversation. I know I don't deserve it, but I need you to hear me. Others came from her orbit. Her father, formal and clipped. Her best friend, Lena, now silent after their brunch fallout. A colleague at Navarro Atelier, fishing for clarity. One email, though, made Victor pause. Mateo Vega, the photographer. Subject, you're not the only one she lied to. I thought you should know. She told me you two were separated. Said you were manipulative, always working, never there. I believe her until I saw you at the yacht party. You didn't look like the guy she described. I ended it when I realized she was playing me. She's telling people you were controlling, maybe worse. Watch your back. I'm sorry for my part in this. Victor's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Elise wasn't just rewriting their marriage. She was crafting a narrative to bury him. He saved the email, adding it to his growing archive. Every message, every photo, Every text was a brick in the wall he was building. Not for revenge, but for truth. He wasn't ready to show his hand. Not yet. In Miami, Elise's life was unraveling like a poorly stitched seam. She still walked into Navarro Atelier with her head high, her outfits flawless, her smile a carefully honed weapon. But the cracks were visible. Her Instagram stories, once a cascade of vibrant fabrics and chic cafes, felt forced, her captions hollow. The anonymous emails kept coming, each one a splinter in her composure. The latest, a photo of her with Sebastian Cole, his arm around her waist, her eyes bright with a freedom she never showed Victor. Subject: do they know who you really are? She deleted it, her hands shaking, but the whispers were louder now. Colleagues avoided her gaze. Her assistant, once chatty, now typed in silence. At a client meeting, a partner mentioned personal drama and suggested a pause on their campaign. Elise laughed it off, but her throat tightened. Later, alone in her office, she scrolled through her phone. Friends' group chats were quiet. Her sister's texts were curt. Even her mother, usually her fiercest defender, had said, "Elise, you need to sort this out. People are talking." The worst came at a gallery opening. Elise, in a sleek emerald dress, arrived hoping to reclaim her spark. But when she approached her old friend Sophia, the air shifted. Sophia's smile was tight. "Victor sent me something," she said, voice low. "Messages. Photos. You and Javier, Mateo, Sebastian. You told me Victor was distant, but this? You lied to my face." Elise's pulse roared. "It's not what you think," she stammered. Sophia raised a brow. "I saw the dates. You were with Mateo during Victor's birthday trip." "Don't." She walked away, leaving Elise rooted, her wine glass trembling. That night, Elise curled up in Victor's old jacket, the scent of him faint but piercing. She dialed his number. Voicemail. "Victor, I'm begging you. I know I hurt you. I hate myself for it. Please, just let me explain." Silence. She checked his social media. Nothing. His location, still off. The penthouse, once warm with their laughter, felt like a mausoleum. Every creak, every shadow was him, absent. Victor, meanwhile, was planting quiet seeds. A call to a mutual friend. Elise might be dealing with some personal stuff. Just a heads up. An anonymous tip to a fashion blog. Trouble at Navarro Atelier? Rumors swirling around Elise Navarro. He wasn't torching her life. He was loosening the threads, letting her unravel herself. He spent evenings refining his real estate tech platform, now called Horizon. Code flowed, investors nibbled. He wasn't just surviving. He was building something new. His talks with Clara Mendez, the psychologist turned writer, grew frequent. Over oysters at a coastal dive bar, he opened up. "It's not the cheating that kills you," he said, tracing the rim of his glass. "It's realizing she wanted to be someone else. I was just there." Clara's eyes softened. "She didn't break you, Victor. She freed you. Build the man she'll never know. That's how you win." The words ignited something. Elise craved his pain. He'd give her his silence, his success, his indifference. Then, 29 days after he left, an invitation arrived at Elise's office. Ivory cardstock, silver script. Not from Victor, but from Renata Holt, a tech mogul Elise once mocked for her dated style. It read, "Join us for the launch of Horizon Ventures, a revolutionary platform by Navarro Innovations." Elise froze. Navarro Innovations? No such company existed a month ago. Her hands shook as she Googled it. Headlines flooded her screen. Victor Navarro's comeback stuns tech world. Stealth startup raises $4 million. From heartbreak to Horizon, Navarro's rise. The photos were worse. Victor in a tailored navy suit, shaking hands with investors. Victor laughing with Renata Holt. Victor, eyes sharp, smile new. Not the soft one he saved for her, but something fierce, untouchable. Elise's phone slipped, the screen cracking. She was the star, the one who shone at galas. Now, he was ascending, fueled by her betrayal. At the atelier, murmurs turned to stares. Her intern muttered, "Guess he moved on." A client canceled a fitting, citing scheduling conflicts. Her podcast interview, meant to reframe her narrative, flopped. Listeners called her inauthentic. What is Victor's next move? And how will Elise face the growing void he's left? The storm is brewing, and the truth is relentless. The Miami skyline glittered beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Horizon Ventures launch gala, held in a sleek downtown ballroom. The air buzzed with the clink of glasses, the hum of power brokers, and the weight of Victor Navarro's quiet triumph. He stood near the stage in a charcoal tuxedo, his presence calm but commanding. Investors leaned in to hear him speak. A senator clapped his shoulder. Renata Holt, the tech mogul, toasted him with a grin. Victor's real estate platform, Horizon, wasn't just a startup, it was a statement. And tonight, it was rewriting his story. Across the room, Elise Navarro clutched a glass of Sauvignon Blanc, her emerald gown catching the light but not the attention she craved. She hadn't planned to attend. The invitation from Renata Holt had felt like a taunt, but curiosity, or desperation, had pulled her here. She watched Victor move through the crowd, untouchable, every smile a reminder of what she'd lost. Her world was shrinking, clients ghosting, friends distancing, her family's faith wavering. Yet here was Victor, rising from her betrayal like a phoenix. Her fingers tightened around the stem of her glass. Victor had known she'd come. He'd counted on it. His plan wasn't to confront her, but to let her witness the life he'd built without her. For weeks, he'd fed the cracks in her foundation. A discreet note to a fashion editor about instability at Navarro Atelier. A call to a mutual friend, sharing just enough truth to shift their loyalty. He'd sent Clara Mendez, the psychologist-turned-writer, a curated file of Elise's lies, texts, photos, dates, not for public shaming, but to ensure the right people knew. Her ecosystem was rejecting her, slowly, surgically. Elise took a step toward him, her heels clicking on the marble floor. The crowd parted slightly, unaware of the history between them. Victor saw her approach, his expression unchanged. No warmth, no anger, just a steady gaze. "Congratulations," she said, her voice soft but steady. He nodded. "Thank you." She tried again, searching his face. "You're doing well. Better than I expected." His lips curved, not quite a smile. "Better than I planned." The words landed like a quiet blade. She glanced around, the weight of eyes pressing in. "Can we talk? Somewhere private." Victor's gaze didn't waver. "Here's fine." Her throat tightened. I don't know this version of you." He tilted his head. "That's the point, Elise. You never did." Before she could respond, Renata appeared, her voice bright. "Victor, they're ready for your speech." He turned. "Coming." Then, to Elise, "My assistant will reach out about my things. Leave them with the concierge." He walked away, leaving her stranded in her designer dress. The perfume he once loved, now a relic of a life he'd left behind. Elise drove home in silence, the city's lights blurring through her tears. In their penthouse, she tore through old sketchbooks, searching for a time when Victor's love was her anchor. She told herself he'd changed, hardened, but the truth was simpler. She'd shattered something rare, and he hadn't returned to fight or beg. He'd returned to outgrow her, publicly, permanently. Her phone buzzed. An email from Clara Mendez's blog, announcing a new post, "The Power of Walking Away," a story of betrayal and rebirth. Elise clicked, her heart sinking. Victor's interview never named her, but every word was a mirror. He spoke of deception, of emotional betrayal masked as passion, of choosing peace over chaos. The post had gone viral, with thousands of comments. One read, "Whoever hurt him lost more than a partner. They lost a once-in-a-lifetime soul." Elise didn't cry. She screamed, the sound swallowed by the empty penthouse. Her carefully curated life was collapsing. At Navarro Atelier, her role was quietly reduced. Fewer campaigns, fewer meetings. Her assistant stopped making eye contact. A major retailer postponed a collaboration. She tried to fight back. A tearful Instagram live, vague allusions to misunderstandings and personal growth. It gained traction until Victor's lawyer sent a private notice. No threats, just a link to a secure folder. Her texts, her photos, her own words time-stamped and undeniable. She deleted the video within hours. Her family, once her shield, began to waver. Her father called, his voice heavy. "Elise, we love you, but you can't keep pretending you're the victim. You had a good man. You chose to break him." She hung up, her hands shaking, and stared at her reflection in the darkened window. The bracelet Victor gave her on their 4th anniversary glinted on her wrist. She told friends it was vintage, but it was her last tether to him. She couldn't let go. Meanwhile, Victor was sharpening his final move. He didn't want to destroy Elise. He wanted her to see herself clearly, to stand in a room where every surface reflected her choices. He'd shared just enough with her inner circle. No embellishments, just facts backed by evidence. Her lies dissolved under scrutiny. Friends stopped calling. Her brother unfollowed her posts. The atelier's board hinted at a restructuring. Victor's absence wasn't punishment. It was precision. He wasn't alone in his new life. Clara's friendship had become a cornerstone, her clarity grounding him. At a quiet dinner, she asked, "Do you ever think about going back?" Talking it out. Victor sipped his wine, considering. No, going back would mean giving her power again. "I'm done with that." Clara smiled. "You're not just surviving, Victor. You're thriving." He nodded, and for the first time, he felt it. What final move is Victor preparing? And how will Elise confront the truth she can't escape? The tide is at its peak, and the end is near. October swept into Miami with a sharper breeze, the city's pulse undeterred by the changing season. Victor Navarro stood in his new office, a glass-walled space overlooking Biscayne Bay, where Horizon Ventures was now a name whispered in tech circles. His real estate platform had launched to acclaim, featured in Wired, praised on investor podcasts, and courted by universities for guest lectures. The man who'd once measured his days by Elise's laughter had built an empire from her betrayal. His phone buzzed, a notification from his lawyer. Subject: divorce papers, final signature. He tapped sign, closed the app, and turned to the skyline. No hesitation, no regret, just peace. Across town, Elise sat in a corner booth at her favorite Coconut Grove cafe, once a haven of warm hellos and free lattes. Now, the 33-26th barista avoided her eyes, and the regulars barely nodded. Her phone was silent. No client emails, no friend invites. Navarro Atelier had sidelined her, assigning her to consulting roles with no real power. Her reputation hadn't imploded publicly, but it had eroded quietly. Every room felt colder, every smile tighter. She still wore Victor's bracelet, calling it vintage to hide its weight. Her life, once a vibrant tapestry, was now threadbare. A month after the Horizon Gala, Elise had tried to reach Victor one last time. A handwritten letter, ink smudged with tears, slid under his new condo's door, a place she'd tracked down through a mutual friend. "I miss us. I know I don't deserve you, but if there's any chance for 5 minutes, I'll be there. I'm so sorry." Victor found it that evening, read it once, and felt nothing. He didn't crumple it or burn it. He filed it in a folder labeled Past, a quiet act of closure. He'd moved on, not to another romance, but to a life where Elise was a footnote. She tried again at Renata Holt's charity event, dressing in sapphire silk, hoping to catch Victor off guard. "You look good," she said, her voice fragile. He raised his glass. "So do you." Things settling down. She seized the opening. "I've been in therapy. I see what I did. I'm trying." His smile was polite, distant. "I'm sure you are." She pushed. "Do you ever think about us?" He cut her off gently. "I don't, Elise. That would mean I still care." He walked away, leaving her to unravel alone. Elise's final attempt was a public one, a raw video on Instagram. No filters, just her in a sweater, eyes red. She spoke of mistakes, pressure, and feeling lost, never naming Victor, but implying he'd left her broken. It gained sympathy until Victor's lawyer sent a private link to her, a PDF of her texts, photos, and lies, meticulously cataloged. No threats, just truth. She deleted the video within hours. The fallout was swift. A luxury brand dropped her endorsement. Her sister stopped calling. Her mother, voice heavy, said, "Elise, You chose this. Stop acting like the victim. The words cut deeper than any email. That night, Elise watched Victor on a late-night talk show, laughing beside Clara Mendez, whose blog post about his journey had millions of views. They weren't romantic, just two people who'd found clarity in pain. Victor's ease, his warmth, was a knife. He'd found what Elise never would, peace. She turned off the TV and stared at an old photo on her mantel. Them in Havana, her head on his shoulder, his smile unguarded. She flipped it face down. The bracelet stayed on. Victor's final move wasn't loud. He didn't need to scream or smear. He'd let Elise's world collapse under the weight of her own choices. Mutual friends, armed with his evidence, had pulled back. The Atelier's board restructured her out of major decisions. Clients cited creative differences and moved on. Victor didn't gloat. He thrived. Horizon secured a $10 million funding round. He spoke at a tech summit, his story of resilience inspiring thousands. Clara, over coffee, asked, "Do you ever miss her?" Victor paused, then said, "I miss who I thought she was. But that's not the same." She nodded. "That's healing." Elise, meanwhile, sat in her dim penthouse, the city's glow mocking her isolation. She opened her laptop, hoping for a reply from Victor. Nothing. Not to her letter, her voicemails, or the artisanal coffee she'd sent his office. His silence wasn't cruelty. It was indifference, the sharpest cut of all. She Googled Horizon Ventures, scrolling through Victor's new life. Keynotes, partnerships, a Forbes profile. His smile was different, harder, freer. She closed the laptop, her reflection caught in the screen. The woman staring back was a stranger. Victor stood at a rooftop networking event, listening to a young founder pitch a sustainability app. She reminded him of Elise, bold, creative, but authentic, no masks. Later, Clara joined him, her question soft. "You're different now. Lighter. When did it shift?" He looked at the stars. "When I realized I didn't need her to close the story. I chose myself." She smiled. "That's the win." Elise's story didn't end in ruin, but in quiet fading. She moved to a smaller apartment, took freelance gigs, and started therapy, but the bracelet stayed, a reminder of what she'd broken. Victor's name popped up in headlines, each one a reminder of his ascent. She didn't hate him. She envied his peace. And somewhere, in the space between their parallel lives, the truth settled. Some betrayals don't need revenge. They need absence. And Victor's absence said everything.